After 39 hours of blood, tears and anger, God of War Ragnarök is finished. I was motivated to do all side stuff, achieving the sweet platinum trophy, but I was so overwhelmed with the side content map of Vanaheim and felt sick at that point. That's when I gave up on combat and side content of God of War Ragnarök and focused on its story, character and world development and narrative side, and that's what I want to talk about today. There are enough God of War Ragnarök reviews out there, haters, lovers, you name it. I am neither. I belong to the heartbroken side. I loved God of War Ragnarök 2018, but Ragnarök broke my heart with its similar combat and wasted potential, leading me to make a video about its narrative side and references of Norse mythology, similarities and so on. I won't be talking about endgame spoilers, but of course, I'm gonna mention some of the events, scenes and characters from mid-game, like 50% to 70% of the story, but no endgame spoilers. For the comparison, I'm not gonna use Marvel Cinematic Universe's Norse mythology, but Snorri Sturluson will be our guide, the man who lived in 12th century, an Icelandic poet, chasing after the Norse mythology, the lifestyle of Vikings and Odin's court. Be sure to take a look at Sturluson's books if you're interested in the events and characters of God of War Ragnarök. I believe it will help you to understand what Atreus, namely Loki, did throughout his journey, intentionally or not. Although his actions of giving life to Jormungand and Fenrir looks like a coincidence, he was just fulfilling his fate, just suitable for God of War Ragnarok's theme of fate and breaking it. Let's start with the two most important figures of Norse mythology, Odin the Allfather and Thor Odinsson, the champion of Asgard, a drunkard, bane of the giants. I really liked how Santa Monica created both Odin and Thor, from their creative design to their dialogues, Odin being the dangerous negotiator and Thor being the deterrent for any refusals. In Snorri Sturluson's work Heimskringla, Odin is often depicted as Wizard King. His thirst for knowledge is being told in several stories and myths, and during our Ragnarok journey, Odin never even tries to hide that ambition, not even in front of Atreus. Another big and very important aspect of Odin is his will to sacrifice everything for knowledge, his honor, his children, and even himself, which is also another important point within the game. The lines between being a god and being a mortal, or let's say human, is quite blurry within God of War Ragnarök. Odin, Thor, and also even Kratos can perform inhumane tasks, carry enormous power within themselves, but they make humane mistakes. They envy, they get sad, and even have issues. Here I would like to mention once again that Odin, sacrificing even his right eye for the knowledge, can even take measures of sacrificing his own kin for the knowledge that he seeks. Without any spoilers, I think these points could make sense for people who play the whole story of Ragnarok. Odin may be the Allfather, the Lord of Heavens and Land and the Wizard King, but he's no saint when it's about achieving the knowledge that he seeks. Originally, Odin sacrifices his right eye at the Well of Urd, sometimes also depicted as Well of Mimir. Multiple resources depict Mimir as different things. Sometimes he is the god of knowledge, sometimes a mysterious figure that protects his well of knowledge, but within Ragnarok, he used to be one of the most loyal advisors of Odin, and the Allfather lost his one eye while trying to gaze upon a realm tear that he found. That realm tear is, I guess, never explained truly, but if I were to make my own comments, that can lead to Ginnungagap, world and all existence's cosmos condition, so to say. Odin's search and thirst for knowledge often lead to a way to prevent Ragnarok. For that, he never stopped sacrificing himself or even others. But for some gods, Odin's quest for knowledge was quite selfish. Obtaining the eternal knowledge, know about everything and everyone to reign eternally. One of his methods without betraying or tricking anyone was using his ravens Munin, meaning memory, and Hugin, meaning thought. One other Odin's betrayal is also known by Sturluson's mead of poetry. This mead was brewed from honey and the blood of an extremely wise Vanir god called Kvasir, who is also known by his collectible poetries within Ragnarok. But by some resources, Kvasir is not a Vanir god but just a human, created by Aesir and Vanir gods after their war. Once it was said, whoever drank the mead would gain knowledge and be magically skilled in poetry, meaning that mead became a very precious source of divine wisdom, leading Odin to tricking the giant who possessed the mead, tricking the daughter of this giant, sleeping with her for countless nights, consuming the meat and then running away. I do believe that Odin's often depiction of almighty, all-father, trustable king kind of image that popular culture brought must be broken in order to understand Ragnarok's creative direction and narrative side better. I do believe also Assassin's Creed Valhalla does a really good job explaining about Ragnarok, Odin's trickery, Tyr, and much more. As next, let's talk about Thor, his role in both Norse mythology and also in God of War Ragnarok. I loved his first interaction with Kratos, provoking him as much as he can to see the legendary God of War of Greece that laid waste to the Greek pantheon. Though behind his words, it feels like Thor is actually trying to remember his past glories, maybe even to relive his conquest against the giants, namely Mjollnir. He often acts like a man in midlife crisis, trying to feel young again, facing against Kratos, maybe even to show that he is still the same slayer of giants in the world of God of War Ragnarok also, or that he is still the rockstar of Asgard that is feared among 9 realms. Thor the Thunder God might be a fearsome warrior that has inspired the Vikings and Norse berserkers during their raids. However, his Mjollnir, meaning lightning, is a weapon without no equals, granting the champion of Asgard fearsome powers. Then let's talk about the creation of Thor's hammer and how actually Loki himself caused its creation. Although Atreus himself does not have any impact on this event within the game, Norse myth events are quite crucial to know. One day, the trickster Loki finds himself in a mischievous mood and cut off the gorgeous golden hair of Sif, the wife of Thor. When Thor learns of this, his quick temper was enraged and he seized Loki and threatened him. Loki pleaded with the Thunder God to let him go down to the Svartalfheim, the cavernous home of dwarves, and see if those master crafter people could fashion a new head of hair for Sif, this time even more beautiful than the original. Thor allowed this and Loki went to Svartalfheim. He approached the dwarven brothers Brok and Snorri, meaning metalworker and spark sprayer respectively, and taunted them. Brok and Snorri, however, accepted the wager. As they worked, Loki turned himself into a fly and stung Sindri's hand. When the dwarf pulled his creation out of the fire, it was a living boar with golden hair called Gullingbursti, meaning the golden bristled. Sindri then set another piece of gold onto the fire as Brok worked the bellows. The fly this time bit Brok on the neck, and Sindri drew out a magnificent ring called Draupnir. From this ring, every 9th night, 8 new golden rings of equal weight falls, quite similar in some way in God of War Ragnarok. Sindri then put an iron onto the heart and told Brok that for this next working, they must be especially meticulous, for a mistake will be more costly than with the previous 2 projects. Hearing this, Loki immediately stung Brok's eyelid and the blood blocked dwarf's eye, preventing him from properly seeing his work. Sindri produced a hammer of unsurpassed quality, which never missed its mark and would boomerang back to its owner after being thrown, but it had one flaw. The handle was quite short. Sindri lamented that this had almost ruined the piece, which was called Mjollnir. Golden Bristled Boar will later on gift it to Freya, Draupnir to Odin, and Mjollnir for Thor, the greatest champion of 9 realms, destined to finish the war against the Mjollnir. God of War Ragnarok has several themes throughout this journey, like trying to break the fate, and other is family relationship, or roughly to say, daddy issues. From Atreus to Thor, nearly everyone shares the same issue, same kind of character development in regard to that. And another crucial side of Norse mythology is Loki and his children. Although Loki himself is a trickster that causes the mayhem, chaos among Asgard, he himself is not the cause of Ragnarok, nor he is the target of Odin the Allfather. His children are Fenrir, Jormungand, and Hel. Loki's 3 children are the threats that Odin was afraid of and condemned all of them to different fates. Let's start with Fenrir, the god-eater wolf of Norse mythology and Atreus' lovely pet of God of War Ragnarok. Although Atreus had no intention of creating creatures to start Ragnarok, without being fully aware of his actions, he does it. Fenrir, as being a sick wolf, dies at Atreus' arm at the start of the game, either praising Mjollnir language, seals the lovely wolf's spirit into his own knife without even knowing it. Later on, this tiny little detail will show us how Santa Monica mixes the concept of Garm, the Cerberus of Norse mythology, and Fenrir together, presenting a lovely character development. Loki, who is by turns the friend and the enemy of the other gods, had 3 fearful, hideous and strong children with giantess Angroboda, meaning she who bodes anguish. The first was serpent Jormungand, destined to kill Thor Odinsson during Ragnarok, and the second was death goddess Hel, refusing to release Baldur from the grasp of death, and the third was the wolf Fenrir, devouring the all-knowing Allfather Odin. Jormungand is thrown to Midgard, quite similar to God of War Ragnarök, and Fenrir being chained in Asgard. However, Garm that is seen by God of War Ragnarök is commonly known as Hell's Pet, a hound dog, and as the guardian of the underworld, and different from Fenrir. They might seem quite similar, but they are not the same. However, mixing the concept of Garm and Fenrir by using Atreus' knife to subdue Garm and adding Fenrir's soul into this giant hound was such a splendid idea, making God of War Ragnarok's narrative direction even more charming in my opinion. Atreus learning the spirit binding magic from Angraboda and then adding a giant soul to a soulless snake, leading to creation of Jormungand, is also another point where Atreus, without realizing, leading to Ragnarok. There are many tales, myths that are about Odin, Thor and Loki, from Mjolnir's theft to Thor's cute goats that he uses as a chariot to travel from one point to another, but these elements are either told by Mimir to Kratos or just do not appear at all. With the most minimal spoilers, whole prophecy about Heimdall and Loki is yet again can be found in literature. As in Norse mythology, Heimdall and Loki is fated to kill each other as Asgard burns down, then they both sink into the sea. The rest about Heimdall is either some theories or stories. God of War Ragnarok does have a memorable storytelling, making all Norse mythology characters from Odin, Thor to even giants carry insecurities, issues with either themselves or with their family, namely making them human. They can be gods, however in Norse mythology, gods are not immortal, and Kratos himself is a deterrent at many points. There may be a lot to talk and analyze about each character's motive or even Mimir's stories here, but today I wanted to compare Odin, Thor and Loki's children with actual myths and in-game narrative direction. I really want to talk about Kratos' journey and how he found himself in Siege of Troy, but even Kratos' explanation were quite short there. If you are interested in Norse mythology, be sure to check out resources like Snorri Sturluson's book, books about analyzing Sturluson's researches, The Viking Spirit written by Daniel McCoy, as they were today's video's references and resources. Also, be sure to share your ideas, comments and what you like about God of War Ragnarok's narrative direction by the comments below. Hope you enjoyed such videos. Since it was my first time making it in English, I might start to do such contents in the future if you're interested.